So I want to touch on one thing real quick, and then we got to talk about a certain show that we watched the first episode of. So I just want to touch on, I'm still trudging through, not trudging, that sounds negative. I'm pushing through Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. Love the game. If anyone's on the I know it's on sale right now. There's a big sale on the Square Enix role-playing games. It's so fucking good. And it's got, so the whole basis of the story is you're a bunch of kids, including one of the kids is the king's son of this little fishing town that you're in. And you decide to go on these adventures. And when you find this temple, you're putting together these plates by finding pieces. And when you put a plate together, you transfer back in time to an island that's off the coast where you are that doesn't exist anymore. And you're solving the problem with that island. And then when you come back to modern times, the island is there.
Oh, I love that kind of stuff.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And then once you come back, you go to the island in present, and people are talking about, oh, these people saved us hundreds of years ago. And it's you.
Yeah.
And you're looking for, this is where you'll find fragments to the plates that you got to put together. But it's got such this, oh my God. So I don't get emotional in games. I got emotional when I was playing this, because there is a character that's with you from the beginning who is so I'm 11 hours in, so this character was with me for the first 10 hours. And they're a major part of your party. And you go back in time to help this group, and this character decides that they're in love with someone from that time, and this group needs a protector, so they stay behind as the protector. So when you go back to the present, you go back to the island, and you go, and there's a gravestone, and it says, here lies so-and-so with their guardian. Yeah. So you know it's your friend. And I was like, oh my God. I put my head back. I was like, my heart just shattered.
Yeah.
But it was sweet, and it was lovely. And, it's this beautiful, you go to the gravestone, and it's got the sun coming through the trees onto it, and it's got all flowers around it. It looks beautiful. But I was like, oh, my God. Yeah. And that is why I love video games.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to see in anything. It reminds me, they did that in Doctor Who when Amy and Roy left.
Yes.
And you find their gravestones, and you see how long they lived.
Nice long lives.
And it's just like, this is sad, but
so heartbreaking.
Beautiful at the same time.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But it's a great game. This was going to be my watch, play, read, but Al read it or watched it. So we're going to talk about Daredevil Season 2, Episode 1.
Yeah, you texted me and you were like, I got 10 minutes in and I wanted to turn it off.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not a fan.
No. So I'm not a fan of this, and I see aside from all the problems we have with when is this happening?
Yeah.
What is the time frame? How is the ship destroyed in the middle of the Hudson and no Spider-Man or any, no one goes, there's a massive boat. You don't hear of any of these other superheroes that are in New York. Or any of the Avengers to say, oh, there's a big ship that crashed.
This continues to be my huge number one issue, is that you have established as a key element to the plot an anti-superhero task force.
Yes.
And we don't see any superheroes.
Yes.
And I'm just left being even Swordsman, who continues to become a bigger and bigger part of the plot, we saw one quick clip of him fighting a guy on a basketball court. Yeah. And that was it. We've never seen real superheroing done. White Tiger had a few moments.
I know,
but we haven't seen almost any actual superheroing done. If this is such a huge issue, then where's all the superheroes? Yeah. What's going... You can't keep claiming that this is a big problem and then never show us any actual superheroes. And
especially after you've shown that there are all these superheroes in the universe with this.
Yeah.
So it's he's not alone. I mean... where's the Sorcerer Supreme in New York City with a ship and the fucking gun? You never hear of anything. It's in the fucking city.
Yeah. No, it makes no sense. It's so frustrating because you're just left being you are an unreliable narrator now.
Yeah.
Where I can't really fully trust anything you tell me because you keep on making these claims and then not substantiating them on screen. And so it's all say, don't show.
Yes.
And that's the exact opposite of how it's supposed to go. And if you can't do the most basic element of filmmaking, then I am going to deduct you on it.
Yeah.
That being said, I didn't hate this. I thought this was fine. It's not bad. It's not good. But it's not as bad as last year. My issue is that it still suffers a lot of the same problems. They haven't fixed any of the problems.
There's a ton of problems.
You have real bad pacing issues.
Yep.
You have a lackluster kind of approach to the actual superheroing being done. We finally get to see Dee in costume, which is good. And there's 2 superhero fights in this, which is good. But again, it doesn't feel like a superhero show for a lot of it at times.
See, I think there's a lot of lazy writing in this, and part of the problem I have with the superhero fights is the thing I always hate about, let's say, Kraven violence, Kraven the Hunter violence. When you have something that's poorly written and you're going to have a fight scene, you amp up the violence and the gore to try to say, oh, well, look at how edgy it is.
Yeah.
And that's what every fight scene I got with this, I'm like, it doesn't seem to fit.
There's a compound fracture in the first 5 minutes. We're edgy. We say "fuck you" 3 times.
Exactly.
We're edgy, and it's like,
It doesn't.
I mean, yes, but also kind of no. I guess.
And my big thing. Listen, folks. Al and I, once again, we don't get political very often.
No.
There's very few people in this world that hate Donald Trump and ICE and all that more than Al and I.
Yeah.
Despise them.
I've almost taken the costume off the wall.
They have gotten way too far into the...
It's weirdly prescient at this point.
Dude.
Where you have a...
They should have just called the task force ICE.
Yeah.
Like, it was that blatant that I'm like... Why are, like, when they go into the restaurant and they're, like, looking for an immigrant, they're beating up a woman, I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
I don't want to... Every time I turn on the TV or I get on any news and it's our regular life, I don't want to see it in the shit that I'm trying to forget about my fucking regular life.
Which, again, would make things better if there were actual superheroes.
Yes.
Watching Daredevil take down a bunch of ICE agents is great. You know what I would love is a lot of that at various points in the city so that Kingpin could turn around and be like, look, he's beating up my men. And then you have this conflict of New Yorkers being like, yeah, but your men are trampling on the rights of every individual in the city. And, oh, but I have to. There could be something, but they're not even doing that. No. And it's just like, instead, I agree with you on that. It rubs you the wrong way because you're like, oh, of course this is. Yeah. Of course this is.
And that's when I turned it off because it was a line in the first like 15 minutes. I think it was spoken by what's her face, the journalist, the BB. She says something about like something that was as blatant a slap in the like, this is Trump.
Yeah.
And I saw that and I'm like, dude, I'm tired of this. Like, listen. I understand it's important to, satirize, point out issues like this, but you can't make it like so blatantly. This is our superhero fighting against the tyranny in real life right now.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want, like, I want to see Kingpin is not fucking Donald Trump. Kingpin is 1,000 times the man Donald Trump is. And they're playing him off as if he's fucking Trump.
My big problem with Kingpin is that they really have associated him with weakness in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And I really don't understand it. It's as simple as they introduce Shaggy into this. I love Matthew Lillard. I'm not going to come down hard on Matthew Lillard. But he's Shaggy. He walks in and he has a falafel and he's talking about how much falafel you can get when you come to... Okay, you're Shaggy and this isn't helping that stereotype. But he has this conversation with the Fisks, both of the Fisks.
Yes.
And the entire time Kingpin is just sitting there like a mouth breather looking sad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not the Kingpin. The Kingpin would not be putting up with any of this.
No, he would fucking break his neck in a second. He was talking. First, he said something demoralizing about Vanessa. Yeah. Like, oh, does she need to be here? And then he says fucking, like, he starts, like, telling the Kingpin what to do. It's like, I don't give a fuck who you are.
Yeah, we don't even know who you are. And the Kingpin just looks there like a sad, lost puppy.
Yeah.
Being like, I guess if that's what he says I should do. And it's just like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? And this is where we get to a real big issue, is the pacing of this show.
Oh, it's bad.
The pacing of this show is very frustrating.
Yes.
Because for every moment where you're like, oh, we're getting somewhere and this is kind of interesting and there's the social commentary for whatever it is, playing out in a dramatic way that you definitely feel one way or another about. And then you get all this time spent with the psychologist who's just going to become Muse too.
Dude.
And then you have all this time with baby Gandolfini. And I'm just like, I can't tell you how much of a waste of time this feels like.
Yeah.
This feels like an enormous waste of time, but moreover, it feels like a slap in the face because no one liked these characters.
No.
No one went to conventions dressed as these characters. No one could even pick them out of a lineup or recite what their names are.
Yeah.
And they're still here taking up a lot of time.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that was the Gandolfini part. I can understand just because he
means something to the plot.
He means something to the plot. The psychologist doesn't. Like, I'm like,
she could have
what
been
the
dropped.
fuck is she doing here?
She could have been dropped at the drop of a hat. She could have just, boop, we're done with you. We're
It's an
moving on.
unnecessary storyline to have in the fucking thing.
She was there as a relief for Matt to say, you don't have to be Daredevil.
Yes.
At this time where the Kingpin is also trying to not be the Kingpin and Matt is trying to be Matt Murdock. Okay, we're going to give you a girlfriend. And then, the life gets pulled out because she gets hooked into the Kingpin and now she's connected to Muse and all this other stuff. And now you're back in the life, Matt. That storyline did not need to continue into season 2. Nobody was sitting here being like, I wonder what Dr. Glenn's life is going to be like from here on out. We could have all gone back to watching this in 2028 and rewatching season 1 and being like, oh my God, I totally forgot about the psychologist. Because why would we care about her?
I don't give a fuck about her.
Why would we care about her? She's not important. From what I can tell, she's not a relevant character from the comic books. Why would we fucking care about this character?
And to be honest, I know you felt this way too. The Fisks in last season in Therapy was one of the worst fucking storylines.
Worst storylines.
So why the fuck is she even like
She drums up bad feelings.
Yes, very much so.
So like, why is she fucking here? And now she's turning into Muse, and it's just like,
so
this
dumb.
sucks.
And
man.
I gotta say, I'm glad you brought up Matthew Lillard because I think they've said he's CIA in this. If you've played a video game, typically an action game like a Far Cry game or a Call of Duty or whatnot, whenever they introduce a CIA character, this is him.
Yeah.
So it's like these guys were just playing a video game and said, oh, let's just write exactly what they did to that guy and put him in this, where he's like, oh, he doesn't pay attention. He doesn't care about any kind of authority because he's the authority because he's CIA and he's eating falafel and he dresses weird and he acts aloof. And it's like, that is the most stereotypical fucking CIA guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, it was just, I think that's the frustrating thing is, I know I got to stop comparing it to the first 3 seasons.
No. That's what we have to do. That's what we must do.
But it's after last season, it's impossible to. Because it's not going to get anywhere within that distance.
But that's why we have to do it. Because it's an injustice.
It is an injustice
for us to sit here and be like, well, but it reminds me of this. And I'm not going to get pulled into a Homecoming rant. When Homecoming came out,
yes,
one of the things that I heard a lot from people who were trying to argue why it was great was that you could infer from absolutely no data in the movies, but from the kind of perceptive idea that the kid at the end of Iron Man 2 is Peter Parker, and he's walking out with Richard and Mary Parker, and he's about to get killed by one of the drones, and then Iron Man drops down and shoots the drone and says, good job, kid, and flies off. And, oh, that's Peter Parker, even though there's no substantiation for that whatsoever. That doesn't count as evidence.
Yeah.
You can't point to that and be like, but this is what makes it good. That's not evidence.
Yeah.
You can't, in the opposite way, you can't push this away from Daredevil and say, well, but that was different. This is where we are now.
Yeah.
You can't separate the two because this has to be better than the other Daredevil. Otherwise, what's the point? Because there were no slouch seasons of the other Daredevil. All 3 seasons were kick-ass.
Yes.
All 3 seasons were great. I was thinking about where we were at this point in the other Daredevil, and we had just met Frank, and it was a whole big thing, and there was Foggy Nelson, and there was Karen Page, and there were characters that we cared about, and we were doing this thing where we were moving on from the Kingpin, and we were going to discuss Matt, and he had the costume, and we were doing things, and it was interesting and dynamic, and brought up hard discussions, and referenced the comic books, and took panels, and all these other things, and we're doing none of that.
Yeah.
We're hanging out in Matt's law office that he's not allowed to be in, talking to the person who replaced Foggy Nelson, because I don't know why. Why did we kill off Foggy Nelson? I still don't know why we killed off Foggy Nelson. Was it a fridging type thing where we just needed something to shake Matt up? But it didn't matter because he resigned and now he's back in the costume again.
Yeah.
So what's the fucking point of any of this? Why do we have no Foggy Nelson, but we now have Cherry and McDuffie? Where did Maloney go? Yeah. Mahoney was a huge part of the shows. He tied everything together like Claire, and now he's just gone. Brett Mahoney's just gone. And I don't care about any of these people, because none of them were important. None of them were comic characters. All of them were invented for Born Again. I don't know why. And then you have fucking Bullseye saves Matt at the last minute at the end of this episode.
Yeah, and it was...
And that's how I'm supposed to walk out of this episode. Like, we had the Punisher show up at the end of the last episode of Season 1, or Season 2, in the first Daredevil, and now in this we have Bullseye throws a knife and it clatters around and comes down and says you're welcome. And, okay.
Yeah, it does. Dude, it's so dumb.
Why?
It's so
I don't
dumb.
get this. And also, you fucked up Bullseye.
Yeah.
His Little League costume was closer to the fucking comic book than any of the costumes you've come out with. I think that this is better than I anticipated. As I told Kelly, it can only go up or laterally. It's already at the lowest point it can really get. And then, of course, they find shovels. But I can't help but look at this and be like, you didn't learn anything. No. You learned nothing from last season.
All this does was jade me further against the MCU. You know, they started to give us hope. Once again, when I say this, I do not count Daredevil and Wolverine. I think that is I know it's part of the MCU, but none of the MCU people had anything to do with it, pretty much.
Well, it was also like a farewell letter, and it was a bunch of different things.
Exactly. So, like, Fantastic Four was the only thing MCU has done since Werewolf by Night that gave me any hope that maybe they were moving in a direction, and then, like, everything... It's like these little blips. Yeah. Like, I have no faith in the Avengers movie. No. I think that thing's going to be dog shit.
It reminds me of No Way Home. Yes. It's all member berries. You remember Cyclops with James Marsden as Cyclops? You remember Nightcrawler with Alan Cummings as Nightcrawler? You remember Jean Grey with Famke Janssen as Jean Grey? It was like, oh, remember? Yeah. Remember Charles Xavier? You remember? And it's just like, that's what that movie's going to be. Yeah. And then it's going to end with that universe collapsing and being destroyed by Doom. And now the MCU is next. Oh, no. And now all the heroes are going to collect on the MCU's turf. And they're going to make a final stand against Doom. And it's just like...
And it's just going to be a massive vomit of CGI crap.
Oh, my God. That's the other thing.
I think that's the thing. And I've been rethinking what I disliked about Endgame the most. And I think it was... It's too much. The CGI is too much.
The CGI is too much. That's why I've been so frustrated by so many of the movies. That's why I got so excited about this Spider-Man having a real costume. Yeah. I will never forget watching Civil War and wanting so badly, at the height of my Marvel fandom, wanting so badly to be like, I will overlook all the problems in this, including the god-awful floating head of literally every character. Yeah. Where no one has a real costume. Everybody has floating head syndrome. And it's just like, I can't do that for you anymore, man. When the CGI is bad, it's really bad.
It's so bad.
It's really bad. And that's not excusable for a studio like you. Either you need to be willing to wait longer, which, by the way, I think people would be on board for. If these things only came out once every 18 months... Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody would complain about that.
I don't think so either.
I think we'd all be kind of down for it, honestly. I think we're beyond fatigued at this point. I think that there's full-blown resentment.
Dude, I'm so fatigued.
And it's just, I I'm just frustrated because these aren't hard lessons to learn. And if you read the red pen that we wrote on your paper last quarter, you would realize that I need to be better about this.
Yeah.
But you didn't take those notes into consideration, and you have the exact same problems you had last year.
Yeah.
And at this point, I have no reason to think that's going to get better. I'm going to continue watching because I genuinely hope it does. I'm frustrated because they keep on putting the carrot out in front of us like some kind of mule. And they're like, oh, Jess got these files on these 2 Greek sailors that you need to find. Oh, Jess got these files. And now Cherry, his investigator, is going to go into the hospital after having a heart attack. Because he's not going to die. They set it up that he might die. He's not going to die, but he's going to be laid up. Oh, we need an investigator? I wonder where we could ever find an investigator. Seriously. And it's just like, but it doesn't count when you do it this way, man.
Yeah.
When you do it this way, it's bullshit. Like, it's like how you're going to do the hand and not reference Iron Fist at all. This is bullshit, my dude.
I don't foresee anything positive out of the remainder of this season or anything future related to Marvel.
But he spray painted his costume black, Steve.
And
then
so
now
dumb.
there's cuts of red in it from where the paint's chipped off. Oh, isn't it cool? Oh,
it's
cool.
What's sad is you can see the bones there of Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio's characters from the previous seasons.
You can see the bones of Charlie Cox and Deborah Ann Wool.
Yeah.
Who I also love and I wish
awesome.
was better in this show and had more of a role. And again, I'm left being like, where was she all of last season?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just left being like, what was this weird false start last year? How much of this doesn't matter? You seem to be retreading on some stuff and backpedaling on other stuff.
Yeah. And the part that really bothers me about their new lair, I'm using quotation fingers, they were known to be
there.
To be at Josie's.
Yeah.
And so now they live in a hole in the wall of Josie's, and no one from ICE is going to
they live in a hole that Matt himself punched in a wall the night that he fought Bullseye through the building of Josie's. And that's their hideout.
Yeah.
And no one has had the thought of maybe we check out the place where Nelson and Murdoch drank.
And it's not like there's a fucking door. It's a big-ass hole in the wall.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
It's an abandoned building, Steve.
It's so dumb.
Why would anybody be there?
Fuck the show.
I hope it gets better. I don't think it will.
I don't think it will.
I don't think even the inclusion of Jessica Jones is going to help this show.
No.
I think, if anything, it's just going to be more frustrating because it's going to reiterate what we could have and what we should have had for a long time now. And that's the thing that I'm most frustrated by is how late we are at all of this.
Yeah.
Even if we get everything we want, why did it take so fucking long? So,
and like the part that I'm really going to be mad about, and you know what's going to happen. How in the hell are you going to have Jessica Jones and they'll never mention Mike Coulter's?
This is what I'm saying. Like, Luke Cage is maybe going to be passive.
But that's the thing. It's like, he was such a major part of her.
Well, and I'm still mad, and I will forever be mad, because the last season should have been one of those seasons where you have a modern plot and a flashback plot. And the flashback plot is all about what happened during the snap. And then the modern plot is all about what's going on now. And so you have this plot about how Kingpin wasn't snapped, but a lot of heroes were, and Foggy and Karen were, and so Matt went down to his deepest, darkest point, and he, like, joined the Hand or something. Like, threatened to become Kingpin himself. Like, there's interesting things, and that's where Kate Bishop's mom comes into play. And, like, you could do things if you wanted to, but you won't address it. You could address that, like, all of the other Defenders were snapped, and, you know, their lives were thrown into chaos, and it's taken them this long to get themselves back online. You know, there's interesting things you could do, or you could just never reference it whatsoever and just leave us all not even hanging, because you won't even deign to comment on it. Like, you won't acknowledge it, you won't do anything, and it's just, I'll always be frustrated by that.
Yeah.